Welcome to Center of Light Radio. Keith Anthony Blanchard here. It's been a while since I've done a radio interview. Time to get back to Center of Light Radio. I enjoy speaking with guests. Tonight is no different. I have a phenomenal guest tonight by the name of David W. Berner. We're going to speak about Walks with Sam. Some pretty profound things took place with this gentleman. Walking his simple little doggy. Welcome everyone to the show. It's been a while. Center of Light Radio, Center of Divine Unfoldment and Reinforcement. Strap in all my brother and sister astronauts as we launch for inner space. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are doing well. There's a lot going on in the world. Find your center. Stay centered. If you don't know how to find your center, find me, and I will help you do that. I've been busy. really busy. Putting together this marketing campaign with my friend, my brother, Mr. Gavin Lee Davies, this bestseller campaign for my new book about to come out, Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to going on in the Soul. New technology. I got new microphones, some working, some not. I'm dropping a link in the forum as of now, so pre-order Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. You can bet it's going to go bestseller status. Why not be a part of this wonderful journey I've been on for 30 plus years? Order now, order now, order now. 30 years of my life doing spiritual work, expanding, blood, sweat, and tears, lots of joy, expanding. It's good to be back. In fact, Mr. David W. Berner is the first gentleman I've had on Center of Light Radio in this way in a very long time. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest this evening. Ooh, long day. Lots of marketing. Tonight on Center of Light Radio, again, Mr. David W. Berner. I'm going to grab his links now so you can find this phenomenal gentleman and say hi to him. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest tonight. David W. Berner is a memoirist, an essayist, a fiction writer, and a journalist. His memoirs reflect on our collective relationships and how those experiences link us to the world we share. Key word, we share. David's stories about fathers and sons, the redemptive power of road trips, travel, music, and the sage-like connections we share with pets. David was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and now lives in the Chicago area. Along with writing credentials, David has a distinguished career as a broadcast journalist, reporting for CBS Radio Network, WBBM Radio Chicago, and public radio outlets throughout America. David's capital word, Medium publication, capital words, The Writer Shed, includes regular posts on writing and the creative process. David is the recipient of honors and awards from the Society of Midland Authors. Check that out. The Chicago Writers Association and the Eric Hoffer Book Awards. He has been the writer in residence for the Jack Kerouac Project in Orlando, where he was privileged to live and in residence at the Ernest Hemingway Birthplace Home in Oak Park, Illinois. Let me call my friend and bring him to Center of Light Radio. Here we go. David, sir, welcome to Center of Light Radio. Hi, David. Is your mic muted? David, I'm not hearing you. There he is. David, are you with us?
Can you hear me okay there, Keith?
I can hear you fine now, sir. Welcome to Center of Light Radio. How are you this evening?
I am wonderful. Thanks so much for having me here. I greatly appreciate it.
I just read your bio, sir. Wow. Being someone who likes the art of words and fashioning words and creating beautiful ideas as such, you have a heck of a background on you, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that I figured out later in life, well, I don't know if it's really later in life, but I probably figured out sometime in my 40s that my real job in many of the facets and things that I do is a storyteller. I mean, I've been a radio journalist, I've been a print journalist, I've been a musician, I've been, a writer, books, in many other forms. So I guess that's what I do is I tell stories in different forms, and that's what I am, and I'm part Irish, so I guess that just it's in the T. So I just I don't know. That's where it has led me, and I've figured that out sometime in my 40s that's what my life's work should be, telling stories.
Well, we definitely can't skip over the. I used to be a musician person. What did you do, sir? What did you play? Did you sing? Did you yodel? I mean, what was your thing, my friend?
Yodeling would be interesting. I played, well, when I was a young man in my 20s, I played in a band, and we did a bunch of stuff, and we took any job you could get. We played in bars, we played in dive bars, we played at weddings, we played, at community fairs. I mean, we did anything we possibly could. We played mostly cover stuff at that time. But later on, we started writing our own music, and we started doing some other shows. And, everybody's lives went different ways. People got married, people had kids, and things changed. And, we were never going to be the Beatles, for goodness sake. So that was never going to happen. But
And
we
what
had a
did you
good
what did
time.
you play? What kind of instrument?
I played guitar, and I
Yeah.
also played keyboards. So my background was that I learned, I did a little bit of piano when I was younger. I was never really a good sight reader of the piano, but I always could accompany. If I knew the song roughly, and there was a singer, I could accompany people. And so I learned that, and then I took up the guitar. Actually, my sister started to learn the guitar, and I just stole her lessons. And figured it out from there. So I think I'm a decent musician. I'm not an accomplished musician. I was a rhythm guy, a picker. We did a lot of songs that had a lot of picking things in it. So that's kind of my background. I still play guitar today. I don't play that much piano anymore, but I still play guitar. I love playing guitar. One of my books is about a songwriting contest that turned into an examination of what it is to grow old and not necessarily lose your dreams, but to have them pushed aside as you realize you're not going to play at Carnegie Hall. But it's always been a part of my life. Music's always been a part of my life, still is in some aspect. Certainly it is for you too.
What kind of guitar do you have, sir?
I have a Taylor.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite guitars. I have an old Yamaha, very old Yamaha also, when Yamahas were really, really good guitars back in the 70s. But the Taylor I just love because of the brightness of it. I love the bright sound of that guitar. I know people love Martins and Gibsons, and those are wonderful guitars, don't get me wrong, but they sort of have a muted sound to me.
Sure.
And the Taylor just has this crispness that I love.
Yeah, it's very, very brilliant. And like you put a bass guitar or guitar in my hands, and if I know the song in my head, what key we in, any strange shifts, let's just do it. And I can facilitate it because I can play the song. If it's in major, I know that soon a minor key is going to happen on a turnover, vice versa. And so I can sort of intuit where the thing's going to go. And I've been doing this so long, most of the bands I'm fortunate to have played with throughout my career, still going, world-class players, people who play with Survivor and Sawyer Brown and Hank Williams Jr. But my point is being able to play with this caliber of players, you better be on your toes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Wow.
Let's get right down to it, David. David, tell me about this beautiful little dog you have named Sam that became your teacher.
Yeah, she's quite a dog. She still is teaching me every day. I can attest to that. We got her in a strange way. I don't know if it's a strange way, but I guess it was just an unusual way. My wife's ex-husband had the dog and found out that his girlfriend was allergic and needed to give it away and was going to take it to a farm or somewhere. And we said, hey, we'll do a trial run. And the reason we did that is we both my wife and I had dogs, and they had passed away, one a year after the other. They were both older dogs, and we've been without a dog maybe for a year or so. And we said, we'll take her in and we'll see how it goes. Well, I'll tell you what, I fell in love in the first 20 minutes. I've always had dogs in my life, so it wasn't unusual for me, but this dog just had something about her that I can't really explain. She has an intuitiveness that I see in a lot of dogs, but this dog is particularly intuitive. She looks at you as if she's looking right into your head. I fell in love with her immediately. And she was, the perfect companion for me in this book, Walk with Sam. I really had no plan to write a book about this, but I started doing a blog about dogs, and I started to have some fun with it. And it was really wasn't a big plan to do anything magnificent with it. I was just having some fun writing about my dog, and it became in this bigger thing. And I started saving all of my notes and all the walks and notes on the walks and the blog posts and everything, and started to figure out that maybe there was something there. And it came at a time that I was on sabbatical, so I was kind of rethinking what I was doing with the rest of my life. I teach college, so it was something I wanted to do. And my sister had recently died, and that was a troubling time for me. She's a struggling alcoholic for a long time. So that was difficult for me to sort of find the place about that. So I don't want to say I was in dire straits, but I was sort of an unbalanced person at the time, just not really sure what was going to be next and how I was going to deal with it. And those walks with Sam really kind of opened up my eyes to the fact that she was kind of like a shaman for me in a lot of ways. And it was really a special summer to let her kind of lead the way rather than me. So it was fun and eye-opening, and we had some laughs, and we had some moments where we cried a little bit, but it was a great summer and a great series of walks with her. So I hope people enjoy the book. I think anybody who loves a dog or anybody that likes a good long walk, a contemplative walk, I think would enjoy this book.
What kind of dog is it?
She is a Labradoodle, actually a Golden Doodle, but she's black. And she's all black because her, I think it was her mother that was a poodle, was a black standard poodle. So she got all the black colors. Now she's starting to get a little gray, not necessarily because she's old, but it's just to change the color of the face. She's getting a little gray around her snout and a little bit around the top of her head and things like that. But she's basically black. And, we like the idea that it was a non-shedding dog. We had both had dogs that were, shedders, Labradors, Golden Retrievers, that kind of thing. And they're great, but they're wonderful dogs and they have superb dispositions. And they were great dogs, but we were a little tired of the hair and cleaning and brushing, and it was hard. It was work. So we thought this might be a good idea. And she is just the sweetest dog, has an elegance about her that I can't explain. It's really interesting. Very interesting.
David, did you always know, or when did you realize at a young age that you were going to be a writer? Was it something? Look, I'm an author of 7 books. I do all these things that surround words, and I failed English 4 times. It's the reason I had to leave school. I failed typing twice. So obviously at that time I had no idea that I was going to be a writer. When did this occur for you, sir?
Well, it's interesting when you say that because, there were so many, you and I know this, there were so many great musicians, superb, wonderful, legendary musicians who don't know how to read music. So, I don't know if that's, meeting all the criteria in an English class in high school. I don't know if that necessarily says you're going to be a good writer or not. But for me, I'll tell you what my very first book was. My very, very first book was in 3rd grade. We were asked to do these little stories, and we could do exactly what we wanted. And I was very much into Jacques Cousteau and all the big underwater things that were going on at the time. There was a lot of television series at that time and documentaries. And I wrote a book called The Cyclops. And we wrote this book, and it was 4 or 5 pages and maybe 50 words at best. And we were to color it, and then with paper mache, we made the book. We made the cover, and I was just enamored by that. Something about that really struck me, that we could make a book and we could tell our own story. I don't know which teacher it was that did that. I should try to remember that, but I still have the book, believe it or not. And there's something about that made me, I guess, really carry on through my life. I mean, when I was writing music and playing music, I was, in essence, telling stories. So it all kind of developed into this point, but I really didn't write a book. My first book didn't happen until I was in my late 40s, early 50s. And I really hadn't thought about writing a book before until some things, shifted in my life. And I thought about, well, maybe there's something here that could be told that people could enjoy or understand or find interesting. So to answer your question, I think I had the germ of it many, many years ago, but I didn't understand what I was getting into. I didn't even understand what to do. My mother graduated from high school. My dad never graduated from high school. I was the first kid in my family to go to college. So, to have dreams like that is really completely out of the norm when I was growing up. So I didn't even know what that meant to be a writer until I got older. So, but I think the germ was there. I just didn't understand what it meant or where it was going to lead me.
Welcome to Center of Light, everyone. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard. Tonight, my guest is Mr. David W. Berner, and we are speaking about Walks with Sam. Lessons from a puppy dog. I just love it. We can all look around and find, in fact, it's those we don't ever suspect that would be the greatest teacher, and they just magically show up. David, if you would, let's go into your first initial walks with Sam. Was it just, dog wagging his tail, great to be outside, smell, urinate on the fire hydrant kind of thing? Or when did things begin to take place with this dog? Did you, what is happening on a level that I'm yet to understand that this dog actually already does?
Yeah. So I guess what you're asking me really is, when did I realize that Sam was giving me something I wasn't expecting? And I would say that didn't happen on the first couple of walks. Sam has, like most dogs, has these little quirks about her that were endearing or, infuriating, depending on the mood you're in at the time. And one of them is that she steals socks. She will steal socks wherever she can find them, in the hamper, in the laundry room, in the drawer. I mean, she just steals them. My wife's mine takes them and, cuddles them together, doesn't chew them, doesn't eat them, doesn't do anything. She just takes them. And the very first walk was sort of talking about how Sam had this quirk about her that I found endearing most of the time. Although when I would wake up in the morning and find, 5 pairs of socks laying all over the floor, that would be, a little disheartening. But that was the thing. I was wondering, what that was all about. Well, I had learned that, just understanding and doing some research and talking to veterinarians, that's a way that a dog connects with you, that they find something that they find your scent on and they want to be with it. And apparently she wanted to be with my wife or I whenever and all the time. So to me, I was like, wow, do I want to be with my kids all the time? Do I want to be with, probably not. I love my children, but maybe right. Not, but this dog wanted to be with us every second of her day.
You probably don't even see this individual as a dog anymore, do you? It's this, right?
I really don't. So right then and there, I said, maybe she's got something else to say. Maybe I don't want to turn this into some some crazy intuition or something. It really wasn't it. It was just the everyday walks that kept opening up little doors. About her, about me, and her kind of almost in a way pointing out to me, something that I hadn't saw as clearly before. But I started to sense that there was something a little different, at least toward me with her. Maybe nobody else is ever going to see it, but I did. And there was something a little bit different about the way she went about the world that I thought maybe I could learn from, or others could learn from, maybe. Dogs don't think about the future. They don't think about the past. They think about the here and now. And how many times have you heard that? Be in the present moment, right? They are the king and queens of that. And gosh, if you can't take something from that, that's the step forward to the most peaceful moment in your life, where you find the most solace, is trying to stay in the present. Hey, I'm not good at it sometimes. I'm not good at it a lot of times, but Sam it just comes naturally. So pay attention to her, and you might learn something. So
That's truly phenomenal because before you actually went there, I was going to bring up the idea. I'm sure that this dog is keeping you present. It's like as soon as our mind would wander away from whatever's happening, the dog finds something new to sniff and something so exciting, and it brings you right back to the dog. Because we always I just monitor our pets. I just recently purchased. It was given to me, this little tortoiseshell Kiki feminine cat. You know, cats, they don't really care. You know, feed me, change my mess, and leave me alone. This little cat wants to get not only with me all the time, literally all the time, she wants to get as close to me as possible, which is falling asleep on my neck. And
wow.
oh my gosh, the energy that comes from this little powerhouse of a cat is phenomenal. And recently she got ill. She had a respiratory infection and 104 fever. And I was like, don't you dare take away this cat from me
Oh
already.
wow. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, and it keeps you present because you have to be present to be able to tend to the animal. How old is Sam?
Sam is going to turn 4 in 2 days, something like that, very soon. I can't remember what date it is today, what the date is, but yeah, she's going to be 4. And from what I understand now, the new parameters about what dogs' ages are, that's about 55. So, which kind of blows my mind because dogs apparently age very quickly and then they kind of go very, very slowly in the next half of their life. That's what the new findings have been. So, yeah, she's about 55 years old, which kind of strikes me as weird because she doesn't feel like a 55-year-old to me. Um, but yeah, she'll be 4.
Do you have any other dogs, or is she the only one?
She's the only one. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
because
got a
my
handful.
question was going to be how is the relationship between her and the others? Would she be the leader or the one that's. So, David, tell me some more about some of these experiences you've had, some of these just jaw dropping, these awe inspiring moments, something that may come up for
Yeah.
you, sir.
Yeah, well, there've been a couple. I mean, I noticed things in my neighborhood. Many of the walks were taken in my neighborhood, and there were times that I just noticed things uh, more clearly than I had before. Just little simple things. The kinds of ornaments that were lawn ornaments that were out there, and what they meant to people, and why they were there. You know, we don't just put ornaments in our yard, I think, because we want to. I think there's something deeper about why we put them there and why we like them. I know that may sound crazy, but I think that's true. I think we do things, even if it's, unconsciously, we make those movements and do those things without even understanding why sometimes. So she allowed me to see interesting things in my neighborhood, allowed me to notice a particular neighbor who, that did some very odd things in his yard, strange things. He would put like a baby carriage or an axe or something in his yard. It was just strange stuff. It wasn't in any kind of mean, strange way in terms of being threatening. It was just odd. And, you come to think, well, this guy's crazy, right? Well, he really wasn't. He was just having some fun, and he wasn't crazier than anybody else in the world. Really, we all got something a little wacky about our personalities. Well, that was his. So I learned not to. You know this intuitively, I think, not to look at people and judge them by one impression. I think we all know that. I think we all know that for in reality, but it's hard for humans to do that. And I think that Sam allowed me to open my eyes a little bit more to the people around me and the things that people would do and say. And it's interesting because when you walk a dog and somebody else is walking a dog, you start talking, right? So I had conversations with people I had never met before in my own neighborhood who had been here maybe as long as I had been or longer. So that fact that you had a dog beside you um, gives you that little connection between somebody that you may not have had. Um, so every one of the walks, every one of the chapters is a walk, and it was a particular walk that meant something that day. Now, are they profound in ways of like, oh my goodness gracious, I can't believe that happened to him? Not necessarily, but they are just the kinds of things that say, hey, have you taken a look at this? Have you thought about that for a minute? Even one morning I was watching a young girl waiting to be picked up to go to school. And I can bet you $100 that this girl was the first day for high school. And you could just see the sort of anxiousness about her. But the sort of joy, but anxiousness at the same time. And, I'm growing up, but oh my goodness, what am I getting into? And you could just sense it. And watching her, kind of reminded me about those moments in all of our lives where we have this wonderful feeling about going to do something special. But we have this anxiousness about it, and that we know that it somewhere down the line, we don't know if it's going to be okay or not. And I just wished for her, in my own head, and told Sam this on the walk, that, I wished her happiness. I hope this works out the way she wants it to, because high school's a tough place. We all know that. And, I could just see it. And I don't know if I'd have paid attention to her, little moment of anxiety there if I hadn't had Sam beside me. I don't think I would have. I think I would have just walked by.
So Sam helped you to understand someone putting up some strange lawn ornaments.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, like, well, why did they do that? Why do they have like frogs all over their yard? I mean, why do people do that? But then I just realized that there's, it's nothing profound, but it's something that says something about little tidbits about the human condition. And, we all know this. I mean, we say this all the time. We hear it all the time, but we are all more alike than we realize. And if we just keep reminding ourselves that, the upside down world that we live in right now might be just a little bit better. And I think Sam helped me to just remind me of that. I really do. Yeah.
Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard here, Center of Light. It's been a while since I did a Center of Light Radio. I'm glad to have my guest with me, Mr. David W. Berner. Tonight we're speaking about Walks with Sam. It's been a while, everyone, since I've done this. Once again, just a quick reminder, Homecoming Crossing the Bridge to the Soul will be released August 1st, 2020. You can pre-order that now. Somewhere in this forum you will see a link, or you can get it on Amazon. Keith Anthony Blanchard, Homecoming Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. Sam, just a bit ago, you mentioned it was not really that crazy intuition. But let me ask you that question. Let's go down that rabbit hole. Did you feel at some point that there was some telepathic, if you will, intuitive exchange happening between you and Sam?
Wow.
Other than just gazing at the dog doing what it's doing, she brought my attention to this little gnome on someone's lawn, and that's kind of cool. And I mean, did you actually feel like some dialogue happening, truly?
Yeah, I have to say that. I mean, I think that's, I don't know. People might think I'm totally out of my mind, but there were moments that in the book that, Sam and I are talking to each other. I'm considering what she might be saying back to me. And I put it as dialogue in the book, because I do think that we were having some kind of conversation here. It wasn't the kind of conversation that you and I are having right now, where we're sort of analyzing what each other is saying and kind of shaping how we're going to answer and how we're going to question. I think she was just, in the moment. She was probably hearing, the Charlie Brown, blah, 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 wah, wah, wah. But I do think that maybe she and dogs in general, I think, have almost like a sixth sense kind of thing. I think they can sense when you're anxious. I think they can sense when you're sad. I think they can sense when you're off a little bit. I think they sense when you're threatened. I think they can sense it. Now, do they categorize it as that? No, of course they don't, because they don't know what that means and they don't understand the language. But they sense that something in your being at that moment is different, and they react to it. So why wouldn't it be that we could have a sort of intuitive conversation without the words? Why wouldn't that be the case if we already know for sure that dogs can sense when something's up? So why wouldn't we have had some kind of conversation?
Well, sure. Conversation implies two ways. So if the highway goes both ways, it's not a one-way street. So if the dog is able to pick up on you, it just takes someone who has the willingness and the want to kind of relax a little bit, and not only, use the eyes. The eyes are windows, and the eyes will open up the possibility, but fall back behind the eyes. And what is that being there?
Yeah,
and that's absolutely the being that's having the conversation with Sam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
I mean, I can see it. I mean, her eyes are, I mean, there's even a chapter in here, a walk in here that talks about her eyes because they are extremely expressive. Now, I know there are a lot of dog owners out there who say the same thing about their dogs, and that's great. I believe it. I'm not saying Sam is, unique in that way. I'm just saying for her and for me, in the moment that we were looking into each other's eyes, there was something different there. There just was. I mean, I have no other way to put it.
Well, you guys are compatible. I mean, another dog may not work for you. I mean, it's kind of like picking a spouse. Seriously.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I think sometimes it is. I mean, I've had wonderful dogs all my life, but they've all been very different personalities, all pretty loving in general. And, they've all been different in their quirks and ways. And they've all been special in their ways. But Sam came to us, my wife and I, and went on these walks with me at a particularly interesting time in my life. And that's what did it. Now, was I going through, trauma or traumatic incidents? Not necessarily. I wasn't going through much of what anybody else goes through in portions of their life, where you're just a little off balance. Not sure, what to do next or where you're going to go or how you're going to deal with a particular aspect that's going on in your life. Those are not unusual things. Those are very, very human, very much of the human condition. And that's what I think is what I try to do with the book. I'm not trying to say that Sam is super special. What I'm trying to say is that you pay attention a little bit more to the world around you. And if a dog helps you do that, wonderful. And I think a dog has a particular intuitive way to do that. Most dogs do, I think. In whatever way, as long as you can make that connection with them, I think it can happen. Yeah,
it's amazing when two souls find each other. The fireworks that happen when two souls find each other, when they're kindred and they come together, and there's just this unity that happens. Often when you find, let's use a spouse again, when you find your life partner, you can just sit there in quiet and have a full conversation.
Absolutely. That's 100% true. Or how about when you have a friend that you've had for years and you don't talk for a year and a half and you pick up the phone and you talk and you sound like, it's like it was yesterday. Why is that? I mean, that's amazing. That's incredible how that happens. A year and a half goes by, 2 years goes by, you don't talk to somebody, you talk to them like you've never missed a beat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
David, Walks with Sam, is this book out currently, or is there a release date here, sir?
The book is on pre-order right now. It is official release pub date is September 1st. There is a paperback version. There is an audiobook. They're both will be released at the same day.
Did you do the audiobook yourself, sir?
I did do it. I have another book that's an audiobook. It's also a memoir. This is in a way very much memoir or creative nonfiction. So I was able to do both of those myself. I just loved it. It was just a great experience. So those things will both be available September 1st, but you can go on Amazon now, go to IndieBound. Also, if you want to support your local bookstore these days, you can go on to IndieBound and order it there. And those bookstores will get it to their place to deliver it to you, or however they're working their particular bookstores. But the book is officially out in September. So if you pre-ordered now, you'll get it 1 or 2 days after the pub date. So I'm looking forward to it. This book has had I'm really blown away by some of the interest in this book right now. I have to be very honest. I thought it was just a fun little book to do, and was something about dogs and walks and finding solace in both of those things. It just is connected, and I'm enjoying the ride. So.
Well, you have
or should I say I'm enjoying the walk.
Yeah. Good one. You definitely have a large audience to cater to. How many people own dogs? Dear Lord.
Yeah, I don't know that number. I probably should know that with my research that I've done while I worked on this. But I don't know. But my goodness, it's got to be, it's got to be 30% of the population or something. I would think 25% of the population. Got to be something like that.
So when you do your walks with Sam, is this kind of an early morning, a dawn thing, and then again at dusk thing, or how does that go?
There were all times of the day. There were many that were in the early morning. but they were different times of the day. It kind of depended on my day. And it's not to say that these were the only walks I took with Sam. These are just the ones that fit into the book in a neat little way and had something to say. I mean, there were walks that we took that, that were just a normal everyday walk. But these were the ones that kind of clicked and had something different about them that made me think that there was something a little more there. Or maybe Sam did something that made me think that there was a little more there. So there were other walks, there were many other walks, but these were the ones that sunk in and I think had something to say. So
who owns
people
the
will see that too.
Yeah, right. Who owns the bed?
Well,
Who owns the bed?
It's funny. Sam doesn't really enjoy being in the bed. That's kind of an odd thing. She's been invited in a couple of times, but she has a little bed beside my wife and I's bed, and she really likes that place. So, but there are occasional times that she jumps up. But she's a cuddler when she does. She's always been that sort of, wrap around you and hang on kind of dog. It's,
I wish we had a picture of her. That would be awesome. Maybe you can send me one and I can tie it into the presentation a little later
I'd
on.
be happy to do that.
Yeah,
I've got one particular that got a lot of play on Instagram recently because she's got her legs crossed like a Parisian socialite. It's just so, she just looks so regal and elegant and like she's waiting for her glass of Chardonnay. It's just funny. It's just funny. I will find that for you and be happy to toss that your way.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Is there a particular moment you would like to share, want to share with our listening audience? Something that, and I know you mentioned a little earlier that it's not always these big bells and bangs and whistles kind of thing, but was there ever such a moment because of Sam or just being with her, something that you can share that took place that kind of really, really pulled you and pried you wide open?
Well, maybe there's one particular thing I think, and I think it sits with me a little bit now because where we are in the world with social unrest and injustice and those kinds of things, and people understanding each other's cultures and things of that sort. I never knew that only a few blocks from me was a Islamic scholar temple. And it used to be a church. It used to be a Catholic church. And I walked by it a couple of times and I never really kind of paid that much attention. But when I was with Sam, I noticed it. And it sits in the middle of which was a very traditionally white Catholic neighborhood. And it's an Islamic center. And I was just thrilled to see it. I was just absolutely thrilled to see it. There's never been any trouble. There's never been any issues. There's never been any people live right next to it and they think nothing of it. And it's been a wonderful experience to see that. I think we sometimes in our world see things that are awful and hurtful and troubling. But there's a lot of things out there that are going okay. And this is going okay. And it really made me think about that. In a way that I hadn't really thought of before. And I think the slow contemplative walk with Sam helped me to just think about that a little bit more and see it and notice it and think like, wow, this is all good stuff. We're all living together, coming from different backgrounds and cultures and religious identities and spiritual identities. And it's all okay. And why can't we do more of that? So
I love it. That's beautiful. Please continue.
Yeah. So I just thought to myself, that's just a wonderful thing. And not am I trying to imply in some way that Sam was the only one who's going to let me see that? No, but I think what it did is because I was walking with Sam and because I got into a rhythm of being sort of, contemplative and thoughtful and noticing and in the present, which Sam helped me do, allowed me to see that, which I hadn't seen before. So that to me is the kind of thing that I think it comes out in the book. I think that's the kind of thing that, that these are moments that are right in front of us, but sometimes we just need to focus the binoculars a little bit, or the eyeglass a little bit, to actually clearly see what it is we're walking by, and we're not really noticing. And Sam, no question in my mind, was the one that helped me slow down and think about that and see that.
Everyone, Keith Anthony Blank, the Center of Light Radio. Tonight, my guest is Mr. David W. Berner. We're speaking about walks with Sam. You know, dogs, cats, other creatures other than human, they don't really have filters in them. They don't see Muslim, they don't see Christian, they don't see black, they don't see white, they don't see any of this stuff. Like you said, we've been talking about, you have been talking about, they're predominantly, in fact, always in the present moment. I've had such experiences with some animals myself. One of them was with a horse many, many years ago. This thing, oh my dear God, it had such amazing power. So have you written any other books? Or didn't you say you have some other books? Would you like to share some of those with us?
Yeah.
Where to find those?
Well, certainly. I wrote some fiction books. I wrote a story about a father and son road trip that comes after a very unusual adoption. There are two books in that. I don't want to say that they're sequels or connected necessarily, but if you read one, you'll get the other. And you can read them separately and independently and be perfectly fine. But there is a connection between the books. And one is called A Well-Respected Man, and the second book is called Things Behind the Sun. And Well-Respected Man is about a professor who writes one book when he's a young man that becomes a phenomenon, sort of a cult book. And he is able, through his writing, not necessarily in his life, but in his writing, kind of get deep into a woman's soul. And women connected with the book very much so. And he became this sort of cult hero. But then there were some issues that happened, and I won't get into all that because I hope you'll read the book.
Right on.
He ends up going to England and living in England for a while. And then a mysterious woman comes to his door from his past and asks him, what has a message for him that he wasn't expecting. That message leads him on a whole turnaround about what he's going to do with his life, and changes his life forever. And it involves a train ride all across America. And finally, at the end of the book, he makes the decision that he's going to make. And that book, Things Behind the Sun, is the 16 years later, what that decision has done to him. And that's the fiction books. My very first book was Accidental Lessons. It came about not expecting to write a book. I'd been in broadcast journalism for many, many years, needed a break, and got accepted to a scholarship program to teach in a troubled school in the Chicago area. I taught there for a year, and I'd come home every day. And I was telling my sons at the time, who were young, what was happening every day, because it was so out of the norm of their lives. And it was good and bad and funny and tragic and all those things. And they kept saying, "Dad, are you writing this stuff down?" And I felt like an idiot because I'm a journalist and I wasn't writing anything down. Well, I started to go backtrack and write everything down. And long story short, it turned into a book called Accidental Lessons, which really is about those students teaching me. And it was that book is still near and dear to my heart. Not only because it was my first book, but because it really it set me on a path for writing more works. And I was happy to win some awards for that book. And
fantastic.
Won some awards for another book called Any Road Will Take You There, which is about a father and son trip that was taken by me because I had found a very strange and unusual photograph of my dad when he was a young man and I was a young boy. There was a generational photograph that was stuffed in a drawer and led to a lot of questions about why that was in the drawer and not hung in the wall somewhere. And that led me on this road trip of sort of trying to determine, do I have the good genes or the bad genes from my grandfathers and DNA and fathers before me? So it's kind of a examination of fatherhood. And I find that a lot of my books have travel and fatherhood in them. I don't plan on that. They just happen to be.
Let me ask you this, sir, from writer to writer. Of course, when we're prompted to write, we can't open up the document or grab the ink pen or boot up the computer fast enough because you're about to pop.
Yeah.
But when you feel like you want to write, just the feeling of, I feel like I want to write something today. Have you ever fallen into writer's block? Or sometimes you got to squint really hard to try to get some juice out of the rag? Or is it pretty easy for you? You just sit down, open yourself up with intention, take a deep breath, and thoughts begin to move into your consciousness. How does that work for you? Have you ever had any blocks, sir?
Well, I really like the way you put that. Open up the file with intention. Because I think that's what it is.
Right.
This might be off-putting to some people, but I just don't believe in writer's block. I just don't believe it.
Thank you very much.
I think writer's block comes from and I don't mean to disparage anybody who think that they have writer's block. I'm just saying that I truly believe that it comes from just not sitting down and doing the work. I mean, to me, there's a lot of craftsmanship in writing. There's a lot of craft. To me, it's like, go to work. If you don't do real well on the job today, that's okay. And maybe you don't write 2,500 words today and you only write 500, but go do the work. I just don't think that there's anything there that necessarily blocks you. I think what happens when people say they have writer's block, what they're actually saying is that they're waiting for some sort of sign or story idea or inspiration. And the fact is that you got to make your own. It doesn't just show up on your door.
What a fantastic answer, sir. I love it because, you have to develop your craft. Once you develop you may have to put on some training wheels for a while, but
Sure.
when you actually are worthy, so to speak, in your own mind, whoever you are, as a writer or a musician or a painter, whatever it is you do, when you feel and you deem yourself worthy of that, that means you've worked. You know how to mechanic a car. So you don't sit there and, like the thinker, what's happening here? Do I twist this boat? What happens if I turn this boat an extra? You learn your craft and you know exactly the wiggle room you have or the wiggles it takes to fall into the place where the information just comes from the wellspring effortlessly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it's true for me. I don't know if it's true for everybody, but it's certainly true for me in that, I'm the kind of writer too that I do not use outlines. There are many times I've written books. I wrote Well-Respected Man and Things Beyond the Sun, not having a clue where it was going. The only thing that I knew about Well-Respected Man is I knew what I wanted the ending to be. I just had to figure out how to get there. But I didn't have an outline. I just move along. And if it goes down the wrong road for a while, I'll come back. Hey, I have a manuscript of 55,000 words. It's out to a publisher right now. It may never get published. It's a very different book. It may not find a home, but I wrote it anyway because I felt like I needed to get it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you sit down and write or music, whatever it is anyone does, it may come out not as good as it could be, but we can liken that to a garden hose. A garden hose has been sitting up for a couple of years and you decide to hook it up to a spigot. The spigot would be the wellspring. You may have some dirt clogs in it, but you have to let the water run clear. Once the water runs clear, it's, so to speak, drinkable.
Wow, that's a really good way to put it. That's a really good way to put it. And I think, too, that some people, some writers who are beginning think that everything they do has to be really great. And everything that they write that day has to be really great. And that when they're not going to go try to get a book published until it is absolutely perfectly great. I think it was Michelangelo who said, art is never finished. It is only abandoned. And to me, that is the way art works. It's never going to be perfect. It is never going to be perfect. Could you have written that paragraph a little differently? Could you have changed the ending? Could you have changed the character slightly? Yeah, but you didn't. So what you have is okay. It's okay. Make it the best you can for you at that moment. And that's okay.
I was fortunate to find an editor. When I first started The Divine Principle, when the voice began to come to me, I'm writing all this down and I would group off subject ideas about fear into blocks, and I put all that over there in this chapter, and about love and unconditional, and all this over here, and stuff about clarity. So I just started to compartmentalize these ideas. And so I had this, what I thought was a really cool book. And so this lady comes over. She wanted to borrow a video, and mutual friend kind of thing. Hi, nice to meet you. I heard you got a book, young man. Yes, ma'am. She goes, you mind if I look at it? I said, well, no, I don't mind. So she borrowed a PDF, or a Word document of it. This is many years ago. And she came back with some of it edited without asking me. And I was like, I was biting my fingernails. Some part of me was not happy at all. And she says, you do have an extra copy of this, don't you? I said, yes, ma'am, I do. She goes, well, then don't worry about it. She goes, Keith, you got the itch. You got the it of it all as well. She goes, but you repeat things. And she goes, if you say something once or twice, at most 3 times, very, very powerfully, you never have to repeat it again. And it's the level of clarity that comes through that's the power. So because if it's clear, boy, that goes into the mind, and it will anchor itself. And she showed me she was a bag lady. Oh my God. She's the kind of lady that would make you uncomfortable in public, going to buffets. She would sneak biscuits into her purse. And that's one of her beautiful quirks. But boy, when it came to the English language, my God, she showed me the power in the comma. Where you place the comma or none at all can make a difference in not only the inflection of the sentence. Oh, completely.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that you hear about the rule of 3, the power of 3 all the time. I mean, comedians do it all the time. You never have 5 guys going to a bar. You have, there's always 3, right? It's like at the beginning of that joke. It's always 3. It's a rabbi, a priest, and a nun or something. It's never 5. It's 3. There's a power in 3. So. The fact that you mentioned something in a book, in a manuscript 3 times, it has the power because it has 3. It's a weird thing. Comedians will tell you that all the time, that third bump in the joke is where it falls. That's the good part. So you see it in musical theater, where there's something about that third bump. And certainly in old burlesque and things like that. So that the 3 that was a really good little tidbit of information she passed along to you.
She also taught me, if we can imagine having a body of work. I had something like 75,000 words. And when we made an agreement, okay, you can go ahead and rip this thing apart as you're going to do. And it took me a while to adjust and realize, oh my God. She goes, I had, for example, an entire page of text, and she reduced it to a paragraph. She goes, Keith, go ahead and read it.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Are you serious? She goes, what's the matter? I said, this is just delicious, because she taught me that all this text was like this, finding the inner David, the statue of David, by removing the extraneous stuff, all the stuff that just muddles the actual message.
Yeah, I'm a real believer in less is more a lot. And it's funny, because I don't know if I would have been like that if I had not been in broadcast journalism, because that's really what broadcast journalism is about for the most part. It's about succinctly telling the story the best you can. And few words, direct words, very Hemingway-esque in a way, which I think gets overplayed, because Hemingway has many sentences that have several commas in them. It's not all about direct, sentences. But it's his style of sort of just tell the story. I learned through, journalism, and it certainly comes out in my writing now. And saying something in 2 or 3 sentences rather than a whole page can be a way more powerful way. I think all writers can learn something from poetry, because so much is said in 2 lines. I think we can all learn something. I am certainly not a poet, and I am certainly not an expert, but I know what I like. And it's usually poems that are succinct and beautifully written and say a lot in very few words.
I love it. Do you are you in the process of doing the marketing with Gavin? I love Gavin. What a great guy. Are you doing a lot of the author, all of the? Are you doing your part of the author relentless marketing like I am.
Yeah, Ron Farber Books, John Hunt Publishing is what we both is our mutual publisher for these books, and Gavin's been great. I mean, he's been tremendous. I woke up one morning, Chris. Of course, I'm in the United States and he's in UK, and I wake up one morning, because of the time difference. There's like 9 emails of particular radio shows or whatever, the podcasts that want to have me. I was like, I can't beat that. That's pretty good. I'll take that. So he's been really, really wonderful.
I've been doing lots of marketing. I get up as a musician, it used to be 10:30. I don't know what happened a few years ago from 10:30 now to 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, right. Now it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, dear Lord. But now I'm waking up with this fire. Oh, I've always waken up with fire. I'm on fire. As soon as my feet hit that floor, I'm ready to sit in this chair and get down with some business. But now it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and like you, I'm resourcing things for this campaign. Lots is moving, and it's hard to hard in quotes to find balance in all this movement. So we are at the top of the hour. I have another show I have to tend to because of this marketing campaign. Thank you, Gavin Lee Davies. Yes, thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me here, David. Would you like to leave us with anything about your walks with Sam, or anything that you choose, sir? And let our listening audience know, everyone, I am now posting links to David's website and the forum. Go stomp all over his page, make a big noise, let him know you exist. Please share with us, sir, anything you would like to leave us with, the listening audience. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
This has been a joy. You have a really great way of pulling out information from an author, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We both have been places before where we've been interviewed where we felt like people were just going through the motions, and you are not. So I appreciate that. The other thing is with Walks with Sam, which comes out in September. It's on pre-order now. Certainly would love you to buy the book, love you to read the book. But what I really love about about the writing is about connecting with readers. I absolutely love it when people send me a note. I mean, you can tell me you hate it. I would love for you to send me a note. I like the idea that, reading and writing are very singular, solitary moments, right? So the chance for people to reach out and connect about what they read or what they got out of it or what they didn't or what they found or what they didn't is really special. And I invite people to do that. It's easy to do that on my website. It's, I'm easy to find. Google me, you'll have no problem. But I really encourage people to do that. I like it. I think the reader gets something out of it. I think I get something out of it. We both have solitary jobs. I write and you read. So let's connect.
David, thank you very much for joining me here in Center of Light. In fact, being my first guest back after, I can't even begin to remember, nor will I try, of doing this. And I'm really excited about the fact I used to use video, as you and I talked in the radio green room, video. And I like the idea of just speaking to the author or the guest without any distractions. So thank you for being here and the rebirth of Center of Light Radio.
Yeah, good friend. Good luck to you. That's a wonderful thing.
Keep me posted, sir, on what you're doing. I would love to have you back anytime you see that you want to just come on here and make a big noise.
Keith, thanks so much.
Blessings, sir. Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard, Center of Light Radio. I am back in the New York groove. I am now posting a link in the forum to my soon-to-be worldwide release, August 1st, 2020. Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. 30 years of blood, sweat, and years, putting everything I have that I know is me into the divine fire to find the real me that is everything. Do you feel me? Dear Lord, I'm going all the way in. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard, Center of Light Radio. Shortly, 1 hour from now, I'm going to be interviewed by Brian D. Harden, gold record producer 130 some odd times over. This boy has made a big noise in the musical world. I'll be seeing you soon in 1 hour. Check it out on my wall. He's going to be interviewing me about Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. Peace, love, and light to you. My name is Keith Anthony.